All right, episode 19 of Few Good Physios. Welcome back. Here today, we are honored to have Sara Dimick. She's a co-owner of Physical Equilibrium. It is a gym here in the city in Manhattan, and they cater to all sorts of clientele, working with Eric as well in his office that he rents out.
Yes, and Sarah and I go back pretty far. I'll let her introduce herself and introduce how we all know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me, guys. This is really cool. This is my first podcast ever. So
Really?
yeah.
Welcome.
So I know Eric because we started as personal trainers way back. We're dating ourselves, but I met him around the year 2000 when I started working as a personal trainer at New York Sports Club.
Oh, I did not know that.
So-
I honestly thought it was just from the recent connection.
No. We go
Oh,
back.
wow.
I mean, when we started our careers there, so
That's crazy.
we rose the ranks of master trainer. We saw a lot of clients. It was like a high volume.
Yeah.
It was a high volume situation where we were seeing like 7 or 8
Yeah.
a day, but it was a great starting point for our career. Went our separate ways, and then more recently, as in like this year, Sarah reached out, and it was a perfect fit. Renting space with her Physical Equilibrium and Weiss Wellness.
Wow.
Yep. So after New York Sports Club, how I became owner or co-owner of Physical Equilibrium is I was at the Big Chain Gym and just realized after a few years, that's not really what I wanted to do. It wasn't, I would say flexible enough to really create the kind of program design that I was looking for with my clients, or have the flexibility that I could have with the type of clientele that I wanted to work with. So I branched out and took the leap and started my own business by myself.
Wow.
And that was back in 2004. And then since then, have been just growing slowly. Met my business partner, Sarah Curry. She was one of the first trainers that I hired. And she worked under me, with me, and a few other trainers. And then I brought her on as a partner because she got her master's degree in nutrition from NYU. So then she's helped build the nutrition side of the business, of the personal training, nutrition, and wellness side of the business. So
That's awesome.
and then, we grew and grew, and we're working out of a personal training only facility for a long time. And then really just outgrew that and have teamed up with Elise Weiss from Weiss Wellness and created more of like a wellness center, personal training, small group fitness facility that is supported by Dr. Weiss and her practitioners, who are physical therapists, chiropractors. Eric is one of them that works out of that space too.
And how long has it been in Weiss Wellness? That was just recent, or that was from 2004?
We met Dr. Weiss probably about 8 years ago and have established that relationship and have really been working with her closely, sharing some of the same patients and clients. And we knew that we always wanted to build something together, and that's, culminated in what we have right now. So the opening of Physical Equilibrium at 515 Madison.
That's great.
It's really cool to see the multidisciplinary approach. While I'm treating patients, you'll have like a Pilates instructor working with someone. There'll be a meditation class. There'll be a yoga class. There's a strength. It's really cool to see that multidisciplinary approach, or even having the doctor work out herself there. Yep. So it's pretty cool, thinking back to like 2 or 3 years ago when the corporate position I was in was getting a little contentious, I would say. It was a change of pace. I wrote down the people I'd like to partner up with, like an ideal situation, and it was doctor, physiatrist, yoga instructor, personal trainer, massage therapy, new clinic, clean look, nice. So
You just described where you are.
I wrote it down, and I just forgot about it. And then recently, I was throwing stuff out, and I was like, wow, spot on to what Weiss Wellness is. So it's pretty crazy. The power, I'm a big believer of writing things down. goals, whatever it is. But there's a power in writing. If the younger generations even know what writing is, but writing,
Make a note in your iPad.
Yeah, exactly,
That's
exactly. But it's pretty cool to see the growth. I mean, and I've been following Sara from time to time. Looking, I was on your mailing list, so I was like, wow, she hired another trainer. She's partnering up with an Ironman. So you also have a bit of an endurance background.
Yes.
You chatted a little bit about the triathlon, the tri community that you also work with.
Yeah, so I've been doing triathlons myself since about 2006.
Wow.
I got into them actually because I had a lot of clients who had knee problems or back problems and maybe a little bit older. And, there's only so much you can do with them in a fitness facility. And I really thought I would recommend to them, you should get in the pool and swim. And they would look at me and go, I can't swim. I won't want to get my hair wet. I don't want to go in a public pool in New York City. And I thought to myself, when I'm old and I have very little, lubrication in my joints, I want to be able to know how to swim for fitness and swim laps, or at least stay in shape that way. So, plus I was kind of getting tired of that gym atmosphere. I actually, my background is a professional dancer, and that's what led me to New York and led me into fitness. So I didn't grow up in the gym as a gym rat. So, it's very exciting to learn all these new exercises and lift heavy weights and things. I like to do things outside of the gym with no equipment. And so I also thought that learning how to swim would be a good mix into the other types of exercise that I did. So I hired a swim coach and got into swimming. Actually, he was a triathlon coach, and he said to me on our first lesson, okay, you need to sign up for a race. And I said, no, I'm just hiring you to learn how to swim. And he said, well, you can bike and you can run, and I'm going to teach you how to swim, so you should just sign up for a triathlon.
Oh, that's a big
and
jump.
I was like, you're crazy. But I mean, he was like, you need a goal. You need something to work towards. And I think that was actually very good advice. And so he was very good at training clients for specific goals. So I listened to him, and I signed up for my first sprint triathlon and trained all summer with him, and did my first race. And while it was mediocre at best, I wasn't fast. I did okay, and kind of fell in love with the sport and decided to keep going. And then my clients saw me doing it, and some of them were interested. So I thought, well, maybe I should just get my coaching certification. So I did that. That was very cool. I went out to Colorado Springs and in Colorado at the U.S. Olympic Training Center.
Wow.
And so I was able to visit that center during our training for USA Triathlon Cert, and work with some of the people at the Olympic Training Center that work with the athletes there on the team, and that was very, very cool. And then brought that education back to my clients here, and then have gotten more certifications as I've gone along, and more education. I mean, now with technology, using GPS and power data on your bike, and lots of, not just heart rate anymore. So it's a lot of other data that we can analyze. And I use Training Peaks. I don't know if you're familiar with that software, but it's called Training Peaks, and I'm a Training Peaks certified coach. So some clients come through that software when they're looking for a coach, and other clients find me in New York as well. And then I coach people for anything from sprint triathlon to Ironman triathlon to marathons. I'm currently training right now myself for the New York City Marathon this year. So, yeah.
That's very cool. So when did dating back to when you started your business, when did you start the swimming and just the tries? What year you think?
That was around 2006. So I had formed Physical Equilibrium, or kind of there's myself training by myself in 2004, 2006 is when I started doing triathlon, and then I brought on some new other trainers to work with me.
Very cool.
So that's kind of how it started. But, physical equilibrium is really, all of our trainers on staff have a similar philosophy in, balancing between strength, endurance, and flexibility. And now we've really added in the post-rehab and injury prevention aspect to our training as well. So,
That's so
and
important.
partnering with the physical therapists and doctors.
That's great.
So,
In terms of the differences with triathlons, for someone who doesn't know, a sprint triathlon would be the 3 events, and how long would be each for a swim?
yeah, so
swim,
the
bike, run?
sprint is the shortest version. And, mostly beginners would start there, but even at the national level, people are super advanced and they're so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So it's anywhere between, it's usually a quarter mile to a half mile swim. The sprint distance is usually a little bit varied. And then the bike is anywhere between maybe 8 to 16 miles on the bike. And then the run is usually a 5K run. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's a 2 mile. So I would say anywhere between a 2 mile and a 5K run.
Wow.
So that's your shortest distance for triathlon.
Mhm.
Then the next would be Olympic distance. And New York has a very famous one, the New York City Triathlon.
That they
Fairly
usually
new.
do like in the hottest month of
July,
the year.
yeah. And you jump into the Hudson River
Oh,
and you swim a mile. So it's a mile swim in the Hudson River. And then
sewage
it's
and all.
Get your
and then it's a
shots.
40K bike and a 10K run.
Wow. I mean, even the
So.
sprint, I was just thinking about it. I was like, I can't do any of those right now. Like, not in a
No
row.
way. Throw you in the river. I would need a life jacket. I would need to get rescued. No, I mean, you train. I mean, at the end
Yeah,
of the day.
I think actually any of these endurance sports, even marathon, I think anybody who trains smartly for it and gives themselves enough time to do it
Mhm.
can do it, can complete it. I mean, some people are more gifted athletically than other people, but I think anybody could train to do it.
I agree.
I mean, I've had people come to me 3 months before a full Ironman with very little training and say, I signed up for this Ironman race. I need a coach. I'm going to do it in 3 months. And I'm like, that's really tight. Like, I really like at least a year
Yeah.
for an Ironman. Usually 2 years. I like 2 years build up for an Ironman.
If they're starting to train for it.
Yeah, if they haven't done, like, say the person's like an avid, just like spin class person and can run a 10K. Like, you really need like a year to ramp up to a full Ironman is 2.4 mile swim, 110 mile bike, and then you run the marathon. So basically, after you've already been out there for most of the day, then you get off your bike and you run a marathon. So
Insane.
I mean, the bike portion, 110
10
miles.
miles.
That's like
6 hours for like a normal person.
I would love to have this gentleman on the show. I had a patient that has done 3 Ironmans. I think he did an ultra marathon. He ran 100 miles, and he did some crazy rim-to-rim thing out in the Southwest. He's
Endurance sports and athletes are a different animal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you. You know, watching the marathon, I'm always inspired by the shapes and sizes of the people, and working as a physical therapist. That was one of the clinics we previously worked at. That was the busiest time of the year. We had so many marathoners, and they gave themselves 6 months to a year. Some of them have no athletic background, and they complete it. And it's really inspiring. I mean, in November when I watch this, it's always like next year. But it is. I agree with you. You know, with training, it really. I mean, they may not break any records, but
They'll complete it.
yeah. Speaking of which, there was an article in the Times about a marathoner that's Did you read
Oh,
that?
of course, yeah. That's all over social media. I don't know the gentleman's name, but in the Berlin Marathon, he
Yes.
broke the world record for
Yes.
the marathon. 2 hours and 1
Yes.
minute.
Oh.
Yeah, he's running really fast.
Oh my God! Did you watch him?
You can run a half
It's a
marathon
sprint.
that fast.
No, exactly.
People were they wanted to. A lot of people on social media were trying to like give some appreciation to how fast he was
Fast,
going.
yeah.
So they broke it down. Like I think he was doing 100 meters in about 17 seconds, which is very very fast. And they had a shot spot towards the end. I think it was mile 18, where there was a kid who maybe looked like he was 12 or 13, and he was running as fast as he could on the sidewalk to keep up with him, and he lasted like a block.
Yeah.
And he when he crossed the finish line, it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm gonna die after running. He ran to his coach and he gave him a big hug, and his coach was probably like 25 feet away, 50 feet away, and he looked so happy, didn't look tired at all. I just ran 26.2 miles at record pace. It was incredible.
Really amazing. I think they're working on that. I saw a special on trying to break the 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
And he actually came the closest.
This guy.
I mean, it's a non-ideal situation. I mean, it's not a realistic situation because they have pace runners throughout the whole marathon. So he had a lot of support, and but still, I mean, it's still an amazing feat. But this, I mean, obviously, this is an elite level. Whether it's elite or it's a 65-year-old that never ran before in their life, I mean, it's still possible.
Yeah.
Very inspiring. So, next topic of post-free. Oh, so you started with training. It seems like you got into that world. Where was the shift with the post-rehab? Because we reunited after that as well.
Yep. So, I mean, as a trainer and you're seeing lots of clients, somebody's going to get an injury somehow. Or even yourself as a trainer, you're going to get an injury if you're an active person. So, it was just, I took this course. Mike Jones out of Houston has a course. If you can Google postrehab.com, that's his course, and medical exercise specialist are the post rehab and medical exercise specialist are the two certifications that he teaches. And I got that certification because I wanted to learn more about injuries. I wasn't going to go to physical therapy school like Eric. I actually didn't want to go back to school, but I wanted to learn.
Exactly.
Sorry.
I wanted to learn more about injuries so that I could help my clients. And, I thought that certification was really, really good because it teaches you, one, the common injuries that you're going to see as a personal trainer. So meniscus tears, knee replacement, hip replacement, labral tears, rotator cuff tears, tendinitis, disc herniations, muscle strains, pulls, that kind of thing. And so what it does is it teaches you what that injury is, gives you a little bit of maybe if there's a surgical fix or if it's just like a rehab fix, what either the doctor or the physical therapist does to help that patient, so you can kind of just understand what the treatment is and what your client has been through. And then the transition from physical therapy of what the physician is doing into what you can do as a trainer once they're released from physical therapy. Because as you guys know, you've worked in big clinics, people get like 85, 90% better, and then you kind of like push them off. I mean, you guys are trainers.
Have other reasons to get pushed off.
Their insurance kicks them off.
Right.
You guys are trainers, and you could continue to work with them, but you can't work with all of your patients either. No. So it's not realistic. So, who is bridging that gap between physical therapy and back to the gym? And really what I'm seeing too in the fitness industry are these classes that people are coming from or training programs that people are on are very, very intense. And there's not that much in between somebody getting injured and then somebody going back into their program. Yeah. So, that's where our job comes in, and that's what we specialize in at Physical Equilibrium, is taking people from physical therapy, kind of bumping up their PT exercises to the next level, progressing them slowly, safely. If they have a setback, send them back to PT or send them back to the doctor, and then continue on their training back into either their active lifestyle or back into the classes they want to take or back into their marathon or triathlon training, or just continue to push them in the gym. And maybe after they get stronger, then maybe like my business partner works on with their diet and their nutrition and, that aspect of their health and wellness too.
The medical exercise specialty, it was, must have been before PT school. I remember taking that certification. It was comprehensive. I mean, it was intense. This was back in the days where I think it was like a DVD and like a binder.
Yep.
So
that's
it
when
was
I took
lot.
it.
It was a lot of material.
Yes.
So it was like a self-study. The gentleman, I think
Mike Jones.
He's a DPT. He's a physical therapist, and it was a really great overview, and just like you explained, where common injuries, very similar to PT school, common injuries, anatomy, general interventions, red flags.
Yep.
So he really was like a pioneer in trying to bridge the gap. I mean, that was one of his little slogans, was bridging the gap. And at the time, no one was doing that. No one really was connecting rehab into fitness. And
What year was this?
it was about 15 to 17 years ago.
So
Somewhere in that.
2000?
Yeah.
I think I took my cert in 2009, maybe.
And he had been out for a while.
Been out,
And it'd
at
been
least
out for
10
a few
years.
years,
Probably like 7 years. I remember one of our coworkers, Nathaniel, I think he had taken that. But now, fast forward to 2018.
Everybody.
Yeah, right. Everybody. Now you got trainers doing, the gap is kind of flipped around, and you mentioned, we've had this discussion multiple times on the podcast and privately, but in my opinion, trainers are doing much better things these days for some, mildly injured patients that are they're not a high-risk situation. They have, let's say, knee pain, back pain, whatever they have going on. I see a lot of trainers doing much better things than if they went to therapy and the therapist told them, stop moving.
Yeah. Don't squat.
Don't
do a squat. Don't lunge. Don't.
God forbid they have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, right. Or sit down in a chair.
Yeah.
So we see this happening, and the fact that you've, got yourself and your staff educated on it, and I see it. I see the staff there very mindful, very meticulous about certain, about form, and this happy balance, because let's get, some of the rehab stuff can be very monotonous and boring, and it doesn't have to be. I think, there's a certain mindset or a certain protocol that says, oh, with this injury, you have to do X, Y, and Z. And what I'm learning, in the last, 7 or 8 years is it really depends. And it really depends. Like if you took a triathlete and you have him doing clamshells for 6 months, it's probably not going to really be too helpful. Or you take a martial artist and you have him doing, terminal knee extension, I don't think that's going to be too helpful. But this bridging the gap is something that Lee and I are, like a lifelong mission, actually.
Yeah, I mean, and this is something that we've talked about a lot on the podcast before, and as trainers ourselves, before physical therapists, these certifications are almost essential, I think, for trainers who want to actually stay in personal training as a job, because inevitably, like you said, they're going to have somebody who's going to come in with an injury or after an injury, whatever it may be. And the more information, the better regarding what are the options. That way you can kind of make an assessment, see what you could do, what would not be good for them, and or kind of refer out what, that whole scenario that you're describing. And I think it's essential. I think every person who wants to, have a good amount of clientele, and also for trainers who want to be in the business.
And establishing that credibility, I think you've done a great job with what you're doing with other doctors. They're amazing referral sources if that line of communication is held, and understand sending people back when they're in that. Not even gray area. They're in the red zone, and you're like, well, let's stop.
Yeah.
The client appreciates that. The medical professional appreciates that, and that's how relationships are built.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool, the post rehab. And another thing we were discussing before we went live is the trends. And Sarah has done a lot of market research, and Lee and I, we've all in this room, we've been through fitness. We've been in fitness for a while, and there's been some interesting trends. Some of them are sticking, some of them are not. But let us know your experience on your market research.
Yeah, so when we were trying to build our own space, I knew that I wanted to have a studio for classes. And I had taught classes a lot as a trainer, but I hadn't been to other people's studios, all the hot, new, trendy studios, all the people's names and their and the letters, and and all my clients were telling me, oh, I came in and took this class, and I took this class, and went to this spin studio, and I was like, okay, well, before we built our gym, I was like, I'm going to go take some of these classes and see what's really happening out here. And I was actually shocked. I kept a log. I have it. Actually, I could probably show it to you. But I kept a log because I was thinking, we were already so entrenched in this post-rehab personal training kind of tract and focusing with Dr. Weiss. And, I thought about my clients, and I kind of during each class and after each class, I would kind of give each class a rating. And I would think about clients I would have like neck and cervical injury, shoulder injuries, lower back disc herniation injuries, hip injuries, knee, ankle. And I would go through the class and I'd be like, is this class safe for this person? And there were definitely a few classes that I found in the city that I was like, wow, this is, these people are doing something really good. And I could send my clients here, and I could, for the most part, think that they're getting a safe workout if they're listening. And then there were other places where I was like, holy crap, no way. No wonder this client came out and was in pieces, or no wonder that person hurt themselves at this studio. Because I was just shocked about what was happening. So one, things that are no warm-up, zero warm-up. I mean, if you're getting a 5-minute dynamic stretch, that's amazing. Then it was right into very advanced exercises right at the beginning, with very little instruction on form and technique. And then very fast pace and very, very many repetitions, a lot of repetitions, and no cueing or no telling people what they're supposed to be feeling, and it was just very rushed. And I mean, I have to say, honestly, most of these places I would leave dripping and sweating in my own, I'd be in a puddle of sweat. I mean, I'd be sliding all over the floor, but I'd leave either feeling like that was way too intense for even me as a trainer, who's somebody who's fit. And I mean, I'm not super young, but I felt like, okay, I can hang with this class. And I was looking around going, oh my gosh, these people are going to really injure themselves. Or, there were other times when, I didn't think that the instructor was even paying attention, or just was following what they got from somebody else, and was giving a class. And this is what we're going to do today, X, Y, Z. Okay, go as hard as you can. Yeah. And it was more of the cheerleading than it was actual instruction. So for us, because we are an integrated wellness center and we're trying to get people back into the gym and not re-injure them, it was important to me to have classes that aligned with what we were doing in the gym and the personal training, the one-on-one. So we do, if you look at our schedule, we have a lot of yoga and Pilates, just because those are a little bit tamer classes and more of the general population can come in and take those classes. And the instructors that teach those classes have education in modifications. And then we have a lot more basic strength classes, because I was finding that there's not that many basic strength classes in the city. It's, really super intense, heavy lifting, or, advanced things like kettlebells, or, HIIT classes, CrossFit, those are very advanced modalities. And I think there was I thought that people are leaving a big demographic out, people who are out of shape, who haven't worked out in a while, who are injured. And there's not that many classes for those types of people. So
We've mentioned it before. It was a joke between a physical therapist and I, because we were working on the east side, and we had a lot of like financial patients, people in the financial industry. So they would take all these really intense classes, and we were trying to joke about the fact that it's they really beat you up in the classes.
Mm-hmm.
So this physical therapist and I were talking about John. He's like, I'm waiting for a class where it's just basically you go in and they have like one of those pool noodles or whatever it is. They just start beating you down to the ground, and the next day you're like, oh my God, I'm so sore from getting.
It's not too far off.
And I think you hit on like a really important thing, because exercise right now, what's coming out is that the skill of movement, the skill of exercise is so important for longevity, for the actual workout, because once you attain that skill and you start to be able to know what position you can get yourself in for efficiency and strength, then you can have a workout. Then you can produce some sort of, like you said, like a graded workout to get you wherever you want to go. Run a marathon, lift more weights, whatever it is. But I think I used to work at Equinox, so that's where I did my personal training. And a lot of the classes there were like really, really intense, and they kind of attract this like, I'm going to provide the most challenging class, so the person who comes in who's the most athletic will be challenged.
Yep.
But those people who haven't even done a class yet are going to be kind of put by the wayside and maybe get injured or whatever it is. And I agree with you. I feel like the majority of people who take classes are the ones who might not feel that comfortable going into the open floor of the gym and going through a workout. They're the ones who might not know what they're doing as much, because they just want to have someone kind of guide them through, and they might not be comfortable with a personal trainer yet. Who knows, whatever it is. So classes like how you're describing that you guys have is key. Like, you teach someone how to move, give them skills, kind of empower them to like, I'll know what to do if I do this on my own.
Yep.
Things like that. That's huge.
Or even when people come to our classes, they are smaller. We didn't purposely keep the studio small, but it just, New York City. But now I'm kind of happy that it's small, because we cap our classes at 10 people. So,
That's good.
The teacher can go around to the students and really give individual attention. And that's really what I wanted our instructors to do. And, a lot of the comments that we get are, wow, we didn't really do that much, but I'm feeling my muscles, and I'm feeling what's supposed to be firing, or I'm feeling,
That's it.
This seemed like a simple exercise, but when you do it the right way, they feel stuff, and they don't need to be sweating all over the floor and slipping and sliding, or God, if I do another burpee, like, I'm like, why so many burpees? Like, every class has burpees, and I'm like,
jumps.
People with shoulder injuries, back, like,
and a burpee is different for everyone.
Some people can't even get down on the ground.
It's burpee, it's like a finisher in every class. It's like, okay, and we're gonna finish with 50 burpees.
But Lee touched on a very key part of skill acquisition.
Yes.
A lot of these classes, there's no skill involved. I mean, I'll have to admit, early in my career, I used to make people sweat through the circuits, and mountain climbers, burpees, stair climb. People wanted that burst, and I think as time went on, that the understanding of, wait a minute, we're teaching, these people come to see us 2-3 times a week. We have a unique position to really lay the blueprints for movement. And if we're never laying the blueprints for movement, they're going to be running, the hamster wheel. And, we see that this is a trend. And you mentioned before, sustainability. How sustainable is 50 burpees
and
5 times a week?
longevity in your body and your sport and your joints. And
it's a happy medium. Intensity is important. But learning the skill before that intensity is critical. And without the skill, unfortunately, something's going to go wrong. If not tomorrow, maybe in a year, maybe in 5 years. But pretty cool. I mean, that's the trend, and we've participated in it. I had to come to terms. I was like, all right, well, New York is a really stressful place.
people want to blow off some steam. I get it. And they feel good afterwards, even though they like, who knows what they did to their shoulders and their body, and they're dripping in sweat, as you said. And, that's the sacrifice that they want to do. But I think once you educate them, be like, you'll be able to do this every once in a while, but it'll be in a controlled, intelligent way. And you can maybe do, multiple rounds of sprints, and if they're preparing for running or something like that. But it's an interesting thing. I feel like early in my career, my training career, since I was like fresh as a daisy, and like I had no knowledge under my belt, and I wouldn't be able to gain a lot of confidence from the client. And you just watch them, come out of these classes, and you try to talk to them about, what kind of movements you did and things like that. But now it's a little different. You're a little bit more armed with information, and more clients you see, I think you also get a little bit more knowledgeable how to manage personalities.
Yes.
So in the beginning, I was more in shock. I'm not from New York originally. I'm from Massachusetts, and I was more in shock with this huge intensity personality, and like people did not want to listen to you if you're like, if you don't have a loud voice or whatever it is. So it's
managing personalities is, it's what we do as therapists, as well as trainers. Your message is consistent, but the delivery is different. When dealing with, where we started our careers on 59th and Park, there's a lot of people that just wanted, they had an hour. Part of the reason of hiring a personal trainer is efficiency, and they don't want to be wasting their time. They want to get the right information. But the delivery of message is key, and that comes through trial and error. What's our next topic here? So, how many
trainers do you now have working at Physical Equilibrium?
You could check the website. I would say we probably have about 8 trainers, and then we have additional like 5 or 6 group instructors that teach yoga, Pilates, that kind of thing. Some of those people also do privates as well, and some of the trainers also teach classes. So, I would say we're around 20-ish people on staff.
That's
very
great.
Cool. Very cool to see that growth.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the toughest things as starting a training business and also physical therapy practice is, finding the right fit, people that align with your values, high level of trust if you're referring them people, and keeping them, happy around. It's a challenge.
Yeah, and especially in this gig economy with everybody, there's a lot of clientele in New York, and but I think that when you run a good facility and you provide your staff with the tools that they want and need, then they realize that it's a good place to stay and be aligned with, and the work that you're doing or the clientele that you're seeing and teaching is good. And a lot of them have come from big gyms. So they have, I would say most of them have experience working in a big chain gym, and they just prefer the small boutique environment. Whereas we've definitely had some staff come and try it out, and they're not so excited about teaching to 4 people in a classroom. They want to teach to 20,
right?
And they want a big classroom, and they want to be the star. So it doesn't necessarily fit with our business model, but then those people find their place where they go.
I think that the large commercial gyms are taking a big hit from the trend of boutique fitness.
Yeah.
And they're taking a hit on multiple levels. Boutique fitness, then you have just concept gyms, Soul Cycle, CrossFit, bar.
Huge emphasis right now.
Right.
All these different specialty gyms.
Specialty gyms, whether, maybe even boxing, martial art. People are definitely branching out.
Yep.
Even Mile High, we were talking about that. So for those of you listeners who might not know all the things we just rattled out, it's just the trend in fitness is towards smaller facilities and more, I guess, a little more one-on-one / small group training.
Yeah.
So the big gyms are kind of, and the wild thing is cost per session on the boutique is obviously more than, your yearly gym membership. but you're getting a lot more for it. Most importantly, you're getting that attention to detail, or should be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's highly variable between different boutique gyms,
Yes.
and I think it's just the management of how they're run and the staff that people are hiring and the quality of workouts that they're delivering to the clientele. Often when I was doing the research, I was on Instagram a lot and like, let's see where this girl's, I would follow somebody, where's she going today? And I would see, okay, she's going to this like hot new trendy yoga studio. I'll go try it out next. And then I go and then I'm like, whoa, okay, that's not, I mean, it looks great on Instagram, but like not what I was expecting, either. Yeah. It just wasn't hitting the mark as far as quality of instruction that I thought. They do a great job at marketing, but
social media has changed everything. I wasn't on social media. We were talking about this a little bit last time or the time before until 2014. So 2014, I got an Instagram, and I literally just got on Facebook maybe a couple months ago. But now that I'm on Instagram and I'm utilizing it for this podcast, I'm utilizing it for my own company, it's really interesting to me what I see on there in terms of trends. And I was talking to a colleague of ours earlier today, and there's a PT. I mean, you see a lot of PTs who have like thousands and thousands of followers, and they're able to build their business based on just Instagram. And the same thing goes for trainers. They have this, they either offer on these Instagram posts quick little workouts and/or information, and that's how they gain their clientele. But it's hard to siphon through everything and make sure you're going to get what, you're getting advertised or whatever it is. But that sounds like the right way to do it. At least try it out, see if it's what is expected to be. If not, move on. But it's definitely changing the game.
Oh, yeah. And I know a lot of instructors now, too, who are streaming, either streaming and just taping their workouts for people to subscribe from home, or even doing live classes where they have followers that are going to meet them at 6 a.m. and do a workout with them live somewhere. So
Wow.
I mean, that's and I've seen it in the gyms where I've had personal training clients. Like in the studio, a girl would set up her iPad and click on it and then like follow whatever was on the screen with the girl doing her. It's mostly, I would say, high intensity intervals and cardio dance is very big. Streaming online, just like you think about like the old Taibo videos, you go back to like Taibo it's literally the same thing, just re-engineered and remarketed into something else. But
What was that video set? It had like the numbers in it.
I
I
just remember the commercial. I remember watching it and seeing him do his
P90X.
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 Yep,
Oh
that's
my
on,
God.
yeah.
I would see, there was like a whole slew of patients I used to see, like I was doing P90X and
Yep.
Insanity.
What is
The
the
insanity is the next level up, I think. That was
Insanity.
the next.
And I actually met one of my patients was on
one
the
of those?
Insanity, and she swore by the guy
Yeah.
that created, she met him and she was like, he is, and I'm sure he's a great guy.
If you
and
do
he's a good
anything for 90 days, you're going to get in shape too.
Exactly.
If you are disciplined
Rome?
enough to do something for 90 days straight, like
Something's
you're
gonna
going to
happen.
get good results.
Yes.
This is so true. And if you take a before picture and an after picture, you'll see
It's gonna look different.
It's definitely going to look different. And if you're 25, no. Yeah. But this trend, you're right though, it's being repackaged. It's the same situation. I think a lot of the simple strength stuff that you were discussing appears to be boring for some, right? It appears, the truth is, there's probably 5 or 6 key movements that we've always discussed in fitness that, we do a good job of trying to sell different ways. But if you just do those few movements, you'll be in good shape with permutations and progressions. But I think like the general public, it can be boring to someone that doesn't know.
And that was also another thing right now with the background of PT and strength training. And like I had someone recently who was coming off of an injury and was referred to me from another physical therapist. And I was trying to let him know that the movement patterns that I was seeing him do really need to be improved upon, but he wanted to get a workout. So it's like you have to balance the education with, giving them a workout and not facilitating more injury and things like that. So I think that's really hard. And I think it's from a lot of misinformation from the outside world, media, and also what their idea of what can be like a something with longevity, something that's sustainable, and achieving their ultimate goals. But that's really hard.
That's what I need to make safe sexy. So.
Yeah,
right, safe. That's it. That's it. And there's
so
ways
true.
to do that.
Yeah.
I think if you took a look at some of the basic movements, and depending on how you sandwich things together, you could pepper in some endorphin release in those, and where people, feel like they work. Like, as you said, sometimes they feel like they're not doing much, and then the next day they're like, wow, things, I'm sore. I'm sore, or I feel good.
Yeah.
It's another thing. You don't have to.
Yeah.
The concept of having to be laid out in your pool of sweat.
Yep.
Lee Man put me onto kettlebell training and working. There was a time where I was working at a gym called Catalyst Sport. Give them a plug. And one of the concepts that were new to me was working at 70%. Never really going to 100. And Pavel, I don't know his last name. I won't.
Sataloon.
Pavel, the Russian special ops guy who brought kettlebells over to the United States. It's a lot. It's simple stuff, and it appears like, what am I doing? I'm just holding this weight for 30 seconds, and I'm on my knee, or I'm doing a farmer's walk, right, with this weight. What's going? I'm crawling on the floor.
Yeah.
But the benefits to that were pretty profound. In terms of feeling good, you finish
you're
your
not
work.
killing yourself. You can do it again the next day.
Exactly. And this kind of methodology of focusing on form, focusing on breathing, focusing all these little small details, making huge impact. But I think hopefully, we will be part of this trend to make safe sexy,
Yeah, I do feel like it's changing, just like we were talking about other stuff. But I think it's catching on. I think the popularity of those boutique gyms is one of the signs, because like Eric was saying and you were saying, is that more focus on that one-on-one, you get that more attention, and hopefully with that quality trainer, you're going to get more skill of the workout. You guys do in the months of July and August, you do work in the Hamptons as well?
Yes. So this was our 10th season working in the Hamptons. I've been doing it for 10 years, which is crazy too.
That's cool.
And so I started it 10 years ago. I had a few clients out there, and one of the gyms that I was seeing my clients at, the owner of that facility needed some extra help too. So he, threw some clients at me to work for him too. So I worked for him and for myself. And each year, just really for July and August, that's the high season out there. So different years I did different iterations. A couple years I only did 1 month, or I did 8 weeks or something. This year, the last few years, both Sarah, my business partner, her name is Sarah too. So we're both Sarah and Sarah. And so Sarah has helped me. And so for the last few years, so we swap off, and we're out there for 10 weeks, about from the last week of June or first week of July through Labor Day, and we see clientele that's from the city that is out there for the summer, and we also get new clients out there, or we see clients out there that we only see in the summer because they live other places, or they have their own trainer in the city when they come back and they aren't in Midtown.
That's great.
It's a nice change of pace. I mean, we're still out there working. We work 7 days a week when we're out there. We rarely have a day off when we're out there. Although the days aren't as long either. By 4:00, nobody wants to work out. I'm not working till like 8:00 at night there. So, but it's early. Good. It's people want to work out early, get their workouts in, before just after lunch, and then they're kind of finished. So then, so we have we usually have the afternoons downtime, family time, or do what we want to do
That's
out there. And then, we know other practitioners, yoga instructors, Pilates, massage people. So we really connect with them too and share business and network. And that's kind of fun too.
Very cool. I mean, for any of the listeners out there that are trainers in New York or physical therapists in New York, summer is usually a little bit of a slowdown period. And part of the reason is because people are away.
Yep.
And there's a large population here in New York that goes to the Hamptons.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Sarah kind of just chased her clients, right?
We did.
It's
That's
like, hey,
Well,
awesome. That's smart though. It's a win-win situation where, you have a change of scenery. You're still working, but like you said, I mean, it's a summer thing.
Yeah.
It's a little different. But, it's definite. I mean, I know that in the summer from physical therapy, I mean, there's always a little bit of a lull because people are away with their families.
Yeah, I think it's key, 'cause I would hear this a lot from patients where I'd lose them for those months and they would come back and something new came up or whatever it was, and they just weren't keeping up with their programs. They weren't keeping up with either being active or exercise. So someone who has quality training can be with them out there. That's super important. You're currently preparing for the New York City Marathon.
Yes.
How many marathons have you done so far this year?
I've only done one other marathon in my life.
Oh, okay.
Mostly, I'm a triathlete. So when I got into triathlon, I started with the sprint distance. Then I went to Olympic. Kind of hung out at Olympic distance for a while, and didn't really want to make the jump to half Ironman distance. But I wanted something more challenging, and that was back, like 2010, maybe 2008, 2009. I did actually the Escape from Alcatraz. So I did that race. I saw it on TV. It was crazy. I saw it on TV, and I was still with my old coach at the time, and I was watching it. And I was kind of still fairly new to triathlon. I had only been doing triathlon for like 3 years at that point. And maybe actually even only 2, because I think I did the first one in 2008. And so I was fairly new to triathlon. But my boyfriend at the time, when I had finished my last triathlon, and I crossed the finish line, he looks at me, he goes, you don't even look tired. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I should do a longer race then if maybe I should run faster. I don't know. But so I thought, well, maybe let's try to challenge myself. So I was watching on TV, and I saw the Escape from Alcatraz come on, and oh my gosh, people are jumping into the San Francisco Bay with sharks and swimming in the freezing water, a mile and a half back to shore, like, what the prisoners did. And then we were biking in San Francisco, those hills, and running in San Francisco, and they made it sound so exciting, the sportscaster. And I had talked to my coach. I said, do you think I could do this race? Like, I said, maybe I'll go out and watch it one year and volunteer, and then the next year sign up for it. And he goes, no, you should just put your name in the lottery. You can do it. I'll train you if you get in. And of course, like, I got in that first year. So I trained to do it, and I did it, and it was so cool. It was, definitely the scariest swim I've ever done. But now that I have swam that, I can swim anything. Now nothing is scary. And I did that race actually 2 other times.
Wow.
That's cool.
So I've done it 3 times now. So
it's such a cool city too. So the bike must have been cool. I know that the entranceway to Alcatraz, where the ferry is, do you guys kind of swim right into that port, that pier?
Well, you get on at that ferry, and then they take you around Alcatraz, and they play this crazy music while you're on the boat. Like, it's like, and the fog is rising. It's like, early morning, and
it's like the
you
theme
go
song
around
from Jaws.
I hope not.
It's really, and everybody's all keyed up on, like, everybody's sardined in there and like hot and sweaty and like in their wetsuit, and you're just like, just want to jump. I couldn't wait to jump off the boat. I was like, get me off this boat with all these athletes.
Of course, they're building up the tension.
And so, they go around Alcatraz, and then you come back, and so now you're on the side kind of facing the city, and you jump off of the boat. They don't have you close to the rocks. They kind of make sure that you're further away, because the first couple of years they did the race, they had people stand on the island and jump off, and like nobody got very far from the shore. People were like caught in the swirling currents.
with
So
the
they got
rocks.
smart finally, and they were like, okay, we're going to start on the boat and jump off. So ever since, they've been jumping off the boat. So you jump off the boat into the freezing cold water. It's 50 degrees. It was the coldest water I've ever swam. And your hands and your face are like so cold at first, and finally after maybe 90 seconds they go numb, and then you're okay because you can't feel anything. You have a full wetsuit on and a full neoprene cap. And the first year I did it, there were 3-foot waves. So
That's enough.
roller
Over your
3-foot
face?
waves. And I remember I turned on my back at one point, and I'm like in the middle of the bay, and I see the Golden Gate Bridge, and I see Alcatraz, and I'm like in the bay, and there's these waves, and I thought, Sarah, you better flip over and just keep swimming. You're gonna be out here. If you don't keep going, you're gonna be out here forever. So I just was like, okay, flip over, just keep going, and I did actually pretty good on the swim all three times. The bike is challenging, but it's short. It's only 18 miles, but it's very hilly, and then the run is very challenging too. It's 2 miles flat, like literally a mile straight up, a mile straight down, a beach run in this really soft, deep sand. Then you turn around, run back, and then you have to run up these sand stairs with like sand on them. And then you run back downhill
insane.
and then flat to the end.
really
so
an escape.
It's
It's
more
really an
like, yeah,
escape.
and it's really cool when you come from the run back towards, where you finish, you crest over the final hill and you can see Alcatraz and the bridge, and you're like, I was thinking to myself, I swam from there. I was just in that water and
That's
I
so
swam.
cool.
It's really cool. It's that was probably like one of the highlights of my triathlon accomplishments.
I would say. Yeah.
And then from there, then I think then I did the marathon, the New York City Marathon, because I've been coaching actually a charity team also for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
It's called Gilda's Club, and they're down on Houston. It's a charity for people who are living with cancer or who have been affected by cancer. So family members can go and get services for support groups, or kids get playtime with other kids who have had family members affected by cancer. People who are getting treated can go and they have workshops for all sorts of things, not only support groups, but also like navigating the insurance system and that kind of thing too. So
Yeah, I don't even want to get. This is a positive. This is a positive podcast.
So I mean, they actually are a very positive organization because everything is free. So if you are affected by cancer and you want help, you can go there, and everything is 100% free for all their members. So that's the charity that I'm working for. I'm raising money again for them, and we coach their runners for the marathon. So it's our 10th season doing that. So I'm the head coach along with a few other coaches on our staff. And we just help people. The team isn't huge, and I don't hand out programs for people to follow because the team is diverse. It's from walkers to, several time marathoners who are maybe qualifying for Boston. So the team is a big diversity of runners, of abilities. So I help people with their schedules if they have trouble figuring out how to plan, or we help them with nutrition. We run some long runs together. We talk about, places to run in the city, or gear, shoes, clothing, that kind of thing, just preparations, helping them think of ideas to how to fundraise, that kind of thing. So
How did you get involved 10 years ago with this? How did it start?
just a random occurrence. And it was, I was teaching a class in Central Park, and a girl showed up and took my class, and she was working for Gilda's Club, and I think went into work like the next week, and they found out they got marathon charity slots for New York City, and they know how to fundraise, but then they realized, wait a minute, we're going to get all these runners, and now they have to run the marathon, but nobody here runs, or we don't know how to tell them to prepare for a marathon. So then they were like, we need a running coach. And that girl was like, oh, I was just at a class with somebody who was a running and triathlon coach. So they called me up, and I literally that week before was like, oh, I'm at a point where I think we need to align ourselves with a charity because we should. It was like, it was
Sweet.
so
It's amazing.
it just all happened right at the same time. So I was like, perfect. Now I don't need to find one. One just fell in my lap. So we've been working with them for 10 years, and it's been great.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We got to put a plug. I think we should.
Yeah, I got to write it down for the show notes.
Yeah, well, I think the show notes. We got a lot of inside jokes with the show notes. Lee, full disclosure, Lee.
I think we could put the postrehab.com.
Got it. Yeah,
You know,
we'll put that plug in
Mike
because
Jones.
Mike Jones.
Yeah.
But we definitely got to put in that
Gilda's
charity you
Club.
mentioned.
Yep.
Yep. It was pretty cool. But the show notes, we got a lot of jokes with the show notes. You know, there's a big part of our population that listens, or at least in physical therapy. Within physical therapy, there's a focus on evidence. So a lot of people want to know where, this information
Can't
is
say
coming
anything
from.
without a backing.
Yeah, without some kind of research.
Yes.
And I, as much as I respect the research, I do respect experience and just experience. So we're not going to do any show notes today. No. But we'll definitely put a plug for all of those.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Now, marathon training, different from triathlon training, of course.
Yeah.
Do you still utilize swimming and biking while you're marathon training?
Yes, and
Cool.
actually I did this weekend because my knee was a little swollen from probably my last run and some strength training and maybe a little virus that I had. So I actually took it easy last weekend, did a little bit on the stationary bike, on my Peloton at home, and then also I went swimming on Sunday. And my knee felt a little bit better, although then Eric worked on it, and now it's like back to 100%.
Thank you. Thank you.
Eric is my PT now between now and the marathon.
Very
Nice.
cool. It's
Very
very
good.
cool.
I'm seeing him at least once a week.
Good.
It's very exciting. The old clinic, we used to work a lot on marathoners, and
A lot, yeah.
part of that I definitely miss that intensity of, week to week. People come on usually about the time
Yeah.
Sarah came on. I think you did 16.
Yeah.
16, 18.
Yeah.
Right, is when we start seeing them
Yeah.
in the clinic.
When you're running like 3
18
hours.
Yeah, 3
Yeah.
hours. 3 hours of running. People
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
You'll probably see a spike.
Falling apart.
Definitely.
It's but you're doing the right thing with cross training, strength
Yeah.
training. Sarah and I have had this discussion, and as with many patients, is she's not just running, and unfortunately, a lot of patients we see, whether it's time constraints or just misinformation, they may really just not know.
Mm-hmm.
They're just focused in on a running plan, and that plan includes anywhere from 3 on the low side, 5 on the
Yeah.
5 on the high side.
Yeah, or
People
even
are
6 days a week of running I've seen. And it's not, I mean,
sustainability.
unless you're really a trained runner, athlete.
Yes.
Right.
And there's like a lot, like you said, there's a lot that goes into that. And I don't want to just say it's genetics or body type, but it does
is,
play.
yeah.
It does play into that. And, if you take the average office worker who
Yeah.
doesn't have a running background, they're running 5-6 days a week, you hit it on the head in terms of being realistic with planning for something like this. It really, it makes all the difference in giving yourself enough time.
Mm-hmm.
To
Yep.
really increase that load progressively, because eventually, the body has to adapt.
There's a couple of different ideas about programming for marathons now, and there's some people who don't even come close in the programming to running very long distances, like 18 miles or 20 miles. I'd be curious to hear what you feel about it in terms of your experiences with different clients and with yourself. Do you have, let's say if you meet with a client and they're interested in running the marathon, and let's say they're a novice at running, it might be their first marathon, are you seeing how they adapt to different runs and then kind of taking into account the other things?
I think it's highly individual, and that's why on our team for the charity I give out a bunch of programs, and I say these are all examples of programs you could follow, but I think it's important for you all to pick your own or rework one of these programs into what fits your current fitness and your lifestyle, and you have to put in cross training as well and some sort of recovery aspect, whether it's yoga or swimming or stretching, massage, PT, you definitely need some sort of recovery as well. But yeah, I mean, and that's when I work with my private one-on-one clients for endurance racing, for whether it's just marathon running or triathlon. everybody is on different programs, even if some people are doing the same race, because it's highly individual and they all respond differently to training. And the software that I use on Training Peaks is very, very comprehensive. And it even now, a lot of coaches are not even using volume in the sense of duration, just duration, or it's called training stress score. So it's
That's cool.
volume, time, and also intensity. So you have an intensity factor for the specific workout, and that gives you one number, and then it's the duration of the intensity that you're doing, and that gives you another number, and then you combine them together and that gives you a training stress score. So you could have a 2-hour super slow run that's the same intensity and or same training stress score on your body as a 30-minute super high intensity. So both of those things can break your body down at the same rate, and so that's
awesome.
also
That's great.
so you're working, and then you can also have a stress score for swimming, biking, and running. Obviously, biking and swimming are less than running on your body, so that's why those values are different too. And you can peak and taper athletes based on some of those values. So it's very interesting.
Well, recently went to. You ever heard of Juggernaut Training Systems? They're like really big in the strength world. I recently went to what they called their annual summit. Actually, they may have it a couple times a year, but they're all, most of the team are PhDs in some sort of sports science, exercise science. And there was one guy, and the reason why I'm smiling because they're all very, very funny when they talk, but they're like comedians. One guy, his specialty was recovery. So he talked about these kind of things, and I think it's all from the same kind of research, because it's putting a number on like their percentage of their max intensity.
Yep.
And so I have to dig back into the PowerPoints, but there is one big article that they really showed these spikes in intensity, whether it be a runner, weightlifter, whatever it is, and they could literally track their injury to those spikes, and it's so consistent. And they found that if you deviate greater than, I want to say 35% of this percentage, the increase of the likelihood of you getting injured is so high, versus if you stay within that nice happy
the range. Yep.
Yeah. But
it's so cool that the variable of stress, the variable of recovery, I feel is, maybe I've been asleep, but this is a relative new not new, but it's something that's being included. Because if you go to the average person that doesn't have experience in training for a marathon, the idea of doing is much more of an emphasis. Like, I need to get in X runs, and there's no consideration of, did I sleep?
Yep.
Am I stressed out? Did
Food.
I have food?
Yeah.
Or just am I, all right, you're running 4 days a week. What are you doing to recover? So it's really cool that they even have like a little algorithm on this.
I gotta show you the graph. I will pull up that for the show notes.
There we go. He's excited about it. He'll get it done.
I can take some screenshots of my clients too, and some of their training and
That'd be awesome.
their build up and peak and taper. And there's lots of, it can be crazy. Analytical, and there's some coaches that really dive into all of the analytics, and I've taken a lot of courses on that, and I still, every time I have an opportunity to take more courses, I still like to go and just sit and relearn things that, I'm sure you guys too, like stuff that's a little more complicated, just like, let's go hear it again, so that you understand it better and you can implement it better for each client.
I have a quick question. This was asked during the summit for this recovery guy, and I totally agree with it. There's so much technology out there now with wearables, and especially for triathlon training, you can put the stuff on your bike, on your arm.
Yep.
Even while you swim, you get the iWatch that's waterproof now. What's your take on kind of utilizing these tools to help people either keep up with their training, recover better, or even just tracking their progress? Or do you feel like might be a lot, kind of overwhelming amount, or do you feel like it's a good?
Yeah,
good idea?
I think it's a good thing, because if you in the endurance world, when we only had heart rate, that was one value. And now it's GPS and pace, and so you get to see even the clients mile to mile or 400 to 400. You get to see their pace, and you see when I coach athletes that don't live locally. I have athletes all over the country, so some that I've never met before, and you see the type of terrain that they're running on. So the intensity of like the hill training they're doing, or how long was that hill, or that the biking, where was it, and even the temperature of their training is all factored in.
Wow.
So those are all great things that you can utilize when you're coaching or when you're analyzing the data. So, and that all goes into the analytics of it.
And that's through Training Peaks.
Training Peaks,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. So and it syncs all up to your
Garmin
your,
or whatever.
Yeah, your Garmin or your Power Tap or whatever you have, your all of your different technology sources, and it syncs up to that. And then as a coach, you get like an email or an alert that a client has uploaded data, and then you can go in there and see it. And the clients have to I make my clients put little notes like, this was a hard workout, this was easy, I bonked, I didn't have enough fluid, or whatever, so that I know what was going on, and I can kind of pick out pieces, or like, I stopped to go to the bathroom at this mile, that's why there was a drop off or a pause in the data. So then I can see what's happening. But some of it now I build in workouts with specific zones that I want them to hit, whether it's on heart rate or power on the bike or pacing zones on the run, and I can see if they hit it or not. So a lot of them are now like, you're very accountable when you hire a coach, because on the other end that your watch is collecting that data, and then it's going to be uploaded. And if you don't hit that, what's your coach going to say?
Yeah.
That's that's it. I mean, I think with training I've only ran a few half marathons, but the accountability factor, knowing that I was tracking my run, knowing that you have that there and you have a certain goal, but I've never had a coach. So when I did have training sessions with someone, the accountability factor, it makes all the difference, and it makes people work that extra mile.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. No, I think that's made a huge difference. I have one, there was through SFG. Do you know you actually might have mentioned it, Push? Do you know that one? It's basically, you can either put it on your arm or you can put it on a barbell, and it's just tracking. I think it's just an accelerometer that just tracks how quickly you move it.
I've seen that, yeah.
But I just started using that every once in a while if I do like a swing workout with a kettlebell, and it will show you, if you do multiple reps, it'll show you kind of where you either dip down or you had like a high movement or whatever it is. But you could see over the course of 10 minutes, we either fatigue or not fatigued. I found it interesting.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, in the endurance world, there's a lot. I feel like there's a lot of technology, but in the strength world, I don't know. There's not that much. That's really interesting.
That's a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
I saw a gentleman, I think I told you about it 2 years ago, strength and conditioning guy, and he had an accelerometer on his client's wrist or elbow, and they were looking at like a power clean. Where do you? Is it on your phone, or is it like a Fitbit kind of?
Yeah, it connects through Bluetooth to my phone, and this was I borrowed it from a colleague of mine, and I either can put it on my wrist or put it on if I do like jumps or something, I can put it on my belt or the back of the shorts. And you plug in where it is, and it's supposed to give you some measurement off that, and I have to put in my height and my weight and stuff like that. But when you described it, didn't they also put it on the bar?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they were looking at speed of the bar. Another tool. Do they still have Dorsa V?
Yeah. The reason why I'm
no, this is more of a PT. This is like a PT tool. I mean, anybody can use it, but it was basically like a little sensor you would put on your calf.
I think it was a couple of sensors.
It was a couple of sensors, yeah. So you could see ground reaction force. You could see cadence. You could see if the person's pushing more weight on one side than the other. You can use it on their paraspinals. So while they're running. You could see if there's increased paraspinal activity. It was a lot of data. And it was a lot of, I mean, for a busy PT clinic, the setup
Took a long time.
took
yeah.
a long time.
Yeah.
It would take it's something that requires cash base. It requires a one-on-one for an hour and a half.
I don't know how they might be wildly successful. I don't know, but I haven't looked into the company, but we've tried to implement it in our clinic a couple times, and there's always something wrong. Like I don't think I can remember where there was one time that was like spot on or it worked perfectly. And you have to basically use these brand new stickies each time. So these brand new stickies you have to pull apart. You put it on people. If someone like me who has a lot of hair on my legs, it's not going to stay on.
You
there
got to tape it up. You got to
tape it up.
That's an issue in itself.
Yeah.
And then the computer might not work. It's like this
Yeah.
back and forth. So,
but the program, some of the fitness programs and all the apps, they're pretty easy and clean. Like the tracking apps on the phone. I mean, they're pretty seamless. But this was a very fancy.
Very fancy,
Yeah.
very expensive.
Very expensive. I was in stereo sound, but it was very expensive. Yeah, we had an interesting experience with that.
Running gait.
Yeah.
This is something we like to look at a lot as PTs. We'll record people slow motion
Yep.
it. Do you guys check out running gait when
I
you're-
do, yeah, and I'll do it just on my iPhone. I just take
Perfect.
slow-mo walking and then running, both with shoes and with no shoes, too.
Oh,
Very
nice.
Barefoot.
Very
key.
Because
cool.
sometimes the shoes change people's
Oh, they do, yeah.
foot position, gait, landing pattern.
Mm-hmm.
We remember Coach's Eye? I still have
Yeah, I
it.
still use that.
That is really cool. Cheap. I think
It's
it's
like
like
$5.99, I think.
really cool HD. I'll show it to you. It's slow mo's, but it really, you could actually, I've done this with clients where you could edit on top of it and give them cues, verbal cues, or make little lines, little squiggles.
My favorite thing about that is you could do a side by side. So you can take, like I've done a before and after, like after a couple of weeks, and I'll take both of the videos, put it right next to each other, and then you could time it perfectly in slow motion, so you could see the exact same foot landing or whatever it is.
Cheap app for all of that technology.
Can you use that for strength training, too?
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
someone like demonstrating a squat or something?
Absolutely.
That would be great.
It's
we should do
really,
that.
yes.
I could probably pull up a video. But yeah, no, I found this extremely valuable. We'll collect the royalties on this soon.
Yes. Well, we're giving a lot of plugs here, which is good.
So this is one of my side by sides that I did for a post, and I could just line up the each one,
This is ridiculous.
Oh, okay, cool.
and then I think I have to. This is the video I already made, so I think I have to split it again. But that's just an example. Those are two different videos.
Yeah, that would be really helpful for us with our, when you teach somebody proper mechanics on certain exercises.
Visual
Huge.
feedback.
Yeah.
I mean, I've used it probably more. I used to use it a lot for running, but then
yeah.
I started working on with personal training clients and showing them like, whoa,
Yeah.
my head is really forward. I'm like, that's what I'm seeing.
This is what I see.
This is what I'm
Exactly.
seeing. But it's again, what we're discussing here is using technology to kind of to improve what we do,
Yeah.
which is really cool. I mean, definitely didn't exist when we started at
No.
back in the day. But this is leveraging technology
Yeah.
at its best.
I thought that was cool. Running shoes. Do you have a favorite group of companies that you recommend, or do you recommend
Yes.
them go to a running store?
I mean, definitely go to a running store and get fit properly.
Mm-hmm.
I personally like Brooks, but I've also worn, I think Saucony is a good, I've heard people really like New Balance. So those I would say are probably the top three. But there's some new ones out there now though too. There's some new companies coming out with some cool stuff too. But those are kind of the workhorses in running. And then
Yeah, I think there's so many out there, and I think, as you said, like one of my go-tos is sending the client to a running store and then explaining there's going to be a wide variety. Most importantly, you have to feel comfortable. Some of the ultra people have these. What were the shoes? What the hell were they? That Francis used to talk about
What's the
They were like
theme?
the super cushion. I mean, these are for people.
Oh, the hookah.
Hookah, yeah,
Hookah.
yes,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So
You have
I
to
mean,
say it with. No.
you gotta use that that
Yeah.
little extra breath. But those, on the surface of it, I wouldn't agree with it. But at the same token, I've never ran 100 miles. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
so it's big within that ultra community.
It was an interesting concept. From my understanding, it came out primarily for people who wanted to do recovery runs but didn't want to lose whatever support they were having, or whatever lack of support. So, like, let's say if they ran on a neutral shoe or somewhat of a minimal shoe, I think hookahs had more options where all they did was thicken what you had on the bottom, but you didn't change your ratio from heel
I
to
see.
toe.
Yep.
But it was very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody's highly individual, and
Exactly.
people's feet are different shapes and different arches and arch support, and I think people need to just try different ones out and see what works for them. And even, I mean, I would say even think about your socks too. So socks and blisters and
Investing in socks is something that can be underrated with an amateur runner. I remember starting with the half marathon. I'm like, I'm just going to use my regular socks. And then I went to the running store, and I was like, whoa, they're $20 socks, but I can't.
It's night and day difference.
Oh, it's a night and day difference.
Features.
Oh,
You ever use features?
I use
Oh my
features.
God.
But there's an Italian brand with a B, I think.
Bombas now.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah.
Features. I think you had put me on features.
Just even the Iron Man has their own socks out.
Yeah.
So
Socks do make a huge difference. Invest. It may be expensive, but it's more expensive when you have your
you don't want
paint blisters.
You don't want blisters.
No.
It's amazing how that small little thing like that can change everything. If you have a blister somewhere and you start changing your gait, you just throw out your back.
Yeah, and another this basic information is, changing your sneakers prior to a marathon or a race is not a good idea. But changing your sneakers in general, if you're a runner, has to be something very gradual. That we see a lot. I've seen a lot of injuries with people that change their gear last minute. I mean, that's some kind of real basic information that to an amateur.
Yeah.
So this is our question and answer period.
All right. Number 1. What's your favorite anatomical term?
Anatomical term.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess glutes, because
Glutes?
glutes are it's all the rage now.
Yeah.
Glutes are the rage.
Very good answer. All right. Oops. What athlete inspires you most? And it can be, I got to reword that. It can be either the athlete or the athlete of the sport. Or, sorry, the sport.
The athlete of the
Like
basically,
like a tennis athlete can be your answer.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a
Okay,
specific.
well, I mean, I
athlete.
would definitely go for the Ironman athlete.
Cool.
Very cool.
And just because that's, what
goes into
the type of activity that I've been doing. I mean, I actually have not myself completed an Ironman, mostly 70.3s, so half Ironman. But definitely the time and dedication that it takes to train for a race like that, and preparation and then maintenance, which we talked about today. So, and it's an underrated sport. Like, these pros don't really get paid very much, and
It's expensive,
Yeah,
actually.
it's
I mean, I
not
would say
ch-
it's
your
they pay a
bike.
lot. They pay a lot.
yeah, all the equipment, your bike, and flying around to places, and yeah.
A good test usually of like how popular a sport is, if you ask someone who might not be in the field of physical therapy trainer or whatever, name a well-known triathlete.
Triathlete, yeah.
And I can't think of one myself.
I can't. I just know, my old patient who's a great guy, but I'm not going to mention him. But yeah, you're right. You can't name the
There's
top.
a lot. I mean, like Andy Potts is one. He's American.
That sounds familiar.
Chrissy Wellington.
I've heard of her.
She wrote books and won the Ironman Hawaii several times. I mean, there's a lot of other pro triathletes that are men that are very
Well-known.
well known too.
Got it.
But still not very well known too. Yeah.
A little added question: would you ever want to do Kona if you qualified?
Well, I've been to Hawaii a few times and I love it there. I won't qualify for the full Ironman. I'm just not that fast. So
Okay.
I'm a mediocre athlete at all three sports. So,
Getting it done.
but I would like, they do have a 70.3 that you can just enter, and I would
Okay.
like to do the half. I think the half is a good distance. So the half is a 1.2 mile swim, a 56-mile bike, and then a half marathon run.
And then you could enjoy Hawaii after that without
and it's like
dying.
a 6-hour event, but so
That's good.
Still,
it's
that's
like a half of a day. So
it's a long
yeah.
day, as we've heard. We knew a triathlete at one
Yeah,
point.
they did it twice.
Wild.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Next question is more TV movie stuff, but I will ask anyways. Pickle Rick, Tiny Rick, or don't know?
I don't know.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that, Sarah.
So
Still haven't researched Pickle Rick. I have to, I should research. This isn't my
Yeah.
podcast. That's crazy.
all right. So
I
Rick
guess
and
this
Morty.
is an inside joke.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of or seen Rick and Morty, the show?
I've heard of it, but I don't think I've seen it.
Neither have I.
It's like a really popular. It's a cartoon show, but it's like geared towards adults.
Yeah, I'm sure my husband has seen it.
It's gaining a lot of popularity. They just won an Emmy for one of their episodes that happens to be Pickle Rick.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are the names of the episodes: Pickle Rick and Tiny Rick. So yeah. All right. So deep question: if you were to meet yourself 15 years ago, what advice would you give yourself?
I think just stay on the same path that I was on. And I would say, keep your eyes open and look out for opportunities that come up, upon you. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool
Nice.
stuff.
And last but not least, what's your best athletic achievement?
I mean, I think jumping into the San Francisco Bay.
There
and
it is.
Yeah.
I would
swimming
agree.
back to shore.
That's incredible.
So, yeah, that's probably the coolest thing I've done.
Very
50
cool.
degree
It
water.
is freezing. Yeah.
With sharks,
Yeah.
seals. I mean, seals look cute from the pier.
She
I don't
said
know.
sharks, and you're like, and seals.
No, because the seals are a thing over there, right? I mean, they're
Yes.
humongous.
Yeah.
Do they like bump into you, or is it?
I don't know.
They don't. I
would-
mean, there's 2,000 athletes jumping off of the ferry boat with other boats in the water and jet skis and kayakers, and there's
probably a lot of
there's a
ruckus.
lot of people in there, and supposedly they say they send off some sound bombs to get the
You better
sharks to
hope.
go away, but
I'm telling you, I'm worried about the seals. The seals are
Man, I'd be
Well, the
all about the
shark.
sharks.
Yeah.
it does make you swim fast. I'm
I'm sure.
let me get out of this
So-
water.
That's wild.
I recently was in San Diego, and we were at Mission Beach, and I took a surf lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, I did horribly, only because I failed as soon as the instructor brought me out to the real waves. Totally flunked. But he brought me out to where there's this calm water, we were before the waves, and we're sitting on the surfboards, and apparently Mission Bay is known for not having any shark attacks, but I didn't know this. So as soon as I sat up on my board and I put my legs on the outside of the board and we're sitting there, he was talking to me. The first thing I thought of was when I watched the shark documentary a while back, they're sharks are attracted to surfers because they look like seals with their legs hanging up. And I started to panic, and the guy's listen, there's no sharks out here. He's I've been here for 20 years, whatever it is, I haven't seen a shark. But so if I was in that bay, I think I'd be freaking out, or at least I'd have to get over some fears of sharks.
That's wild stuff. That's very cool.
Yeah. Before we finish up, any other actually, if someone wanted to reach out either for training, coaching, whatever it may be, what's the best way to reach out to you?
They can find Physical Equilibrium on the web, where our gym is in Midtown on 53rd between Park and Madison at the 515 Madison Avenue building. So they can go to our website, connect through our contact page, or give us a call. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, so they can find us there too.
Cool. We'll be putting that in the show notes
Yes,
for
we
sure. We'll
will.
do all that.
Sarah, thank you for coming
Thank
on.
you.
Thank you. It was a blast.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
We'll have
Right.
the other Sarah on soon.
Yes,
That'd be
I was
awesome.
you took the words out of my mouth. Coming to the podcast will be Sarah Sarah Curry.
Yes.
and we'll get her take on things.
Yeah, I'm more of the endurance athlete, and she's the bodybuilder and dietitian. So you'll get a whole
That'd be awesome.
different take on
Very cool.
her training, what she does.
She's done a lot of fitness comp. She's done some comps.
Yeah, and she's preparing for one right now, and but she actually has done marathons and triathlons before, so she's kind of switched back to her roots of strength and conditioning focused rather than endurance sports.
Very cool. Stay tuned. Thank
right.
you guys
Thank
for
you.
listening.
Thank you
Appreciate
for listening.
it. Signing off.
Thank you for listening to A Few Good Physios. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Follow us each week while we interview guests and have clinical commentary.